Nardine Starverev, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in Windsor, Connecticut. I specialize in premarital counseling and couples counseling. The work that I do with couples is very exciting to me because I feel like couples are so dynamic in their relationship, especially when I get to work with couples who are about to get married. They're excited about their wedding. They're excited to start a new life, and it's exciting to be part of that process, just to see two lives merging together. So the work that we do focuses on just really addressing certain areas that most couples do struggle with, will struggle with, whether it's finances, sex, communication, and we have fun doing that. I think that it's one of the most exciting parts of counseling is to be able to see a couple merge two lives together. And I also work with couples who are having trouble in their marriages after having kids, and it can be challenging when you introduce kids in the picture because it takes so much time away from the couple relationship, and it really can take a toll on a marriage. So I do encourage couples to maintain their relationship by coming in, whether it's 2, 3, 5 sessions, in order to make sure that they are maintaining their relationship. And I also see couples who are in distress. And those couples are couples who have had a lot of issues over the years that they have not addressed, and now they're at a standstill. And there's nothing that cannot be resolved if both couples are really dedicated and committed to their relationship. I believe that if those two components are there, I can safely say that they can get to a place where they can connect and be able to be happy again. So this is what I do, is I help couples to connect, build, and have fun in their relationship. So if you are in a place where you feel like you need a little kickstart, please give us a call, and I will be honored to work with you. So this is our very first episode of Happy Couples. Why Happy Couples? So the goal is to be able to discuss different topics, different struggles that couples go through, and more importantly, couples will actually make it out of those struggles, and just being able to share the things that couples are doing that's helping them to be in a healthy place and a happy place. So the goal is to be able to talk about these things, talk about these topics, and have real couples and real marriages. And hopefully that's something that can help you along in your relationship as you mature in your marriage relationship. No matter what stage you're in, we hope that it can be of help to you.
And we ourselves have been married for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that we're going to share with you guys are the things that we've learned over the years. We have met with many other couples in the past. We got advice ourselves. We learned how to deal with things with the kids, without the kids. I should say before we had kids, and now since we have kids. And some of the things that we're going to share with you guys are also the ones that I think kind of globally people experiencing today, because we're going to talk about the modern day marriage and really, well, you want to reveal the topic actually?
So today our topic for the show is focused on the reasons why modern marriages are failing. So we actually have, how many do we have?
We have 7 things that we would like to share with you guys. 7 reasons why modern marriages ain't working or are not working.
Ain't working.
By the way, this is a really good coffee.
Ooh, this is, I'm not a coffee drinker.
Cappuccino, I'm a coffee drinker.
I am a tea drinker, so.
And her favorite is mint tea. So
yes,
unfortunately, we don't have a mint tea here today.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you want to start with the very first one?
Yeah, so we're going to jump in, I guess, huh?
Yep.
So we're going to jump in. So when we are, we were thinking about what modern marriages are like. So the first thing we thought in terms of what can hinder marriages from working is the fact that our society's perspective of marriage. You know, our view of marriage over the years have changed
Right.
as a society, and I think that has definitely impacted marriages, both I think both positively and negatively.
Right, because in the past, somebody who was looking to get divorced, it wasn't very a common thing to do. In fact, was more of a stigma to get divorced.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, as a society has changed, as the laws has changed, it's much easier to get divorced. It becomes an option. When people get married, many couples keep in the back of their mind, well, I have an option to get
Yes.
divorced.
Yeah.
It's
Way
kind
out.
of the
Yeah.
commitment component is there, but it's like it's a one way in, one way out, like one leg in, one leg out. And it feels like these values are no longer there, bound, anchored faithfully in marriage.
Yeah. And so the second piece that we also looked at is that a lot of couples go into marriages and not building a healthy foundation or strong foundation. And so, what does that look like, I guess? Like when we were discussing it, like there's so many components of what a healthy foundation is when someone's looking to get married.
And I think, obviously marriage starts every single time with I should say not every single time, but most of the time with a wedding. And couples invest so much time and so much money into one-day wedding. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we were there, we got married, and we spent a lot of time preparing for a wedding
And it was
day.
fun. It was fun.
And it was
Yeah.
fun, and there's nothing wrong with having a wedding day, but all emphasis is being placed into getting ready and the flowers
On that one
and,
day.
and
on
wedding
that one
dresses and tuxes and everything else and guests and food. But very little effort is being put into actually preparing for marriage. So it's like, when you go to college or you want to get a job of some sort and you need a skill, what do you do first? You go to college or you go to some kind of prep school to get that skill.
Training school, yeah.
Now, marriage seems to be not seen that way. So that's what I think.
Yeah. And I'm a big proponent of that, obviously, for obvious reasons, in terms of couples seeking out premarital counseling prior to getting married. And I think that, again, there's that stigma of attending counseling, for example. And I think that it's important for couples to understand that there's certain things they may not be aware of, they may not be thinking about when it comes to getting into a relationship.
Right.
And I think it is important for couples to engage in some sort of premarital counseling to go over the big ones in terms of like sex, finances, communication, and learning different things about each other. And talking about whether they're gonna have kids or how many.
Right.
And I think a lot of couples minimize how these things can impact their relationship in the long run by not really addressing them prior to getting married.
And I think there's a stigma with premarital counseling because people think, well, you only need counseling when you have a problem.
Yeah.
You have problems. But in reality is, if you go somewhere and you get prepared and trained and you just simply sit down with people who are wiser than you, who've been married for longer than you have been, and you ask them, well, how do you guys deal with the communication? How about, kids? And how did you decide how many kids to have? What do you want to do for vacation? Those kind of things, financial plans. And when you go into marriage with that kind of a mindset that you are prepared, obviously you're not an expert, everybody is going to encounter their own problems, but nonetheless, at least you have something to look forward to, you somewhat expect, things will happen. It's really not the matter if it will happen, it's just a matter of when it will happen, because every single marriage, we met with many couples in the past, and we know couples now who've been married for 30, 40 years, and none of them have a perfect marriage. But they have perfected their marriage along the way because they encounter different issues and they learn how to deal with them. They got advice from people. So premarital counseling actually is a great tool to be able to start off marriage.
Yes, yes, agreed.
And we actually had premarital counseling too.
We did. And, it's funny that even with that, there are certain things that you can never, ever be prepared for in marriage, honestly. It's kind of like when before you're married, it's kind of like theory.
Right.
And then you get into it, it's like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And that's why I think even after the whole premarital counseling, it's also important to have maintenance in your relationship, whether it's checking in, just like we do with our own health.
Yeah.
If there are things that are going on in the relationship, it's still important to go see someone outside of that relationship that can be objective, observe. It doesn't have to mean that you're in trouble. But I think that's the other issue, though. A lot of couples wait until they're in crisis to seek out help. And so I think that just for couples to really have that in the back of their mind is that it's not anything negative. It's actually very healthy. Just the same thing we do in our careers.
Yep.
We maintain our careers. We get, more classes just to be better at what we do. And I think
then we
that
get coaching if we want to get, if we go for like another master's degree to get prepared for something, to learn a skill. So yeah, I mean, it's an awesome thing to be able to meet with other couples and talk to them and ask them questions. I think it's like highly recommended.
Yes, yes. So what's the next?
Well, the next one I think you also see that people see marriages as 50-50.
Okay.
Right? And it's kind of like, partnership. And it is a partnership to an extent, but people start placing kind of like check marks. Okay, I did this and you did that and I did this more. And now all of a sudden kind of that love commitment that we had all of a sudden turns into a sense of entitlement. And therefore I'm not willing to do this until you do that. And that's not a good mindset to have. 50-50, I mean, maybe that's why we have this divorce rate, 50-50
like over 50%
in America.
Yes.
So we kind of see it that way.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the third reason as to why modern marriages are not working.
Did I mention that she's a LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am just a husband who is married to one. So she has a lot better qualities in her than I do.
I appreciate
she is actually an awesome wife.
I appreciate it. So are you. An awesome husband as well. I'm grateful for you. So the third one is expectations of what we see in the media. And I think that one is a big one for
Yes, it is.
a lot of us. I think that I can't speak on behalf of the men, but I think that a lot of us women, we tend to look at what goes on and in the movies that we watch, or just even Hollywood, Hollywood romances that we see, and we think that, okay, this is the way it's supposed to go. We get swept up our feet, our white knight in shining armor, and we expect certain things from these relationships because of what we see, and then we have these unrealistic expectations that we set in our relationships, and then we get into marriage and we're thinking, this is not what I expected. And then, resentment will start, brewing there because we're just disillusioned by what we now see as marriage, unless we actually communicate those things to one another.
And I think from a guy's perspective is, right, most men want to come across as very manly and, well, most men, very manly, very, good looking, attractive, or be able to have good athletic abilities. We actually just saw Mission Impossible 3 with Tom Cruise.
That was really good.
Which is actually really good.
Yes,
if you haven't seen it, you're going to go see it. You need to go see it. And I mean, this guy never ages, I don't even know how old he is right now, but He looks the same way as like 25,
from like
30 years
Top
ago.
Gun or something.
And, you know, everybody want to look like that. And it's not the reality, but the media kind of portrays that, you know, well-dressed and very athletic and, you know, whole host of other great qualities. And then, you know, you got to drive a certain type of car, you know, you need to have a certain bank account or a certain credit card and all kinds of things that media kind of pushes on us, and we feel like, well, that's the way the world is, and we have to be that way as husbands. And the reality is, it's you're going to be who you need to be based on the job you have and the budget you have and the family you got, and not necessarily try to be someone you are, what media wants you to be, and buy their products, right? So that's kind of from a guy's perspective.
Okay. So the fourth one is technology. And
I love technology.
That's a big one.
And actually,
Yes,
I am guilty of this one myself.
You are big on technology. I'm not, but he's a big techie. Yes,
Yeah,
you
I
are.
love my phone, my tablet. Although lately I've been trying to stay away from those things actually in the morning, because those things can be very distracting.
Yeah, they suck your time. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They're time suckers. They are.
And so technology, right? When it comes to couples, what we see a lot of couples do, instead of talking more often, frequently they do what?
You know, either texting or just even not really talking as much because, you know, they're on the phone. They go to bed and they're on the phone. So there's not a lot of quality time that couples are really spending with each other because there's so much distraction. Like having a phone with everything on it, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, whatever, you have everything in the palm of your hand. And so it's easy to not have those quality time with each other.
Right, and then you start, you know, binging movies for hours, and then all of a sudden you're not even talking, and in the middle of the movie you're checking your text messages with your friends and stuff like that. But I think the technology goes a little bit deeper because it gives us an ability to reach in the past.
Yeah, that's true. I think, you know, with social media, I think that especially if a couple's having a hard time, you know, it can be easy for them to reach out to old flames, and you really have to be careful of that.
Like
or
old
even,
boyfriends and girlfriends, right? Or previous relationships that may not have been healthy, right? Yeah.
And before you know it, it can cause a whole host of problems in a relationship. Even for some people, like I can see others like airing out their dirty laundry on social media and not being very wise as far as what they put out there about their relationship and where they're at. And I think that people just really need to be wise in terms of how what they divulge on social media and how they use social media.
Yeah. So as much as technology can be fun, it can really create a lot of stumbling blocks in marriage, and you just have to be aware of those things and make sure it doesn't suck your time and effort, and rather be able to, you know, when you go to restaurants, just, you know, put a phone in the pocket, you know, just keep it away, you know, connect with a spouse, you know, have a good conversation, because a lot of times people are forgetting what it's like to have a good conversation at a restaurant.
It's true.
You know, we've gone to restaurants with the kids, and you see teenagers
Everybody's
and parents
on
their phones.
Everybody's
you know,
on their
it's like what
phone.
happened with the board games and stuff like that. And so modern world technology can really affect marriages dynamic.
Yeah.
So what's our next?
So our next one is sex.
Oh, this is, again, we're probably going to step on someone else's toes right now with this one, but go ahead, honey.
Well, I think that when we think about modern marriages is that, you know, back in the day, I think sex was something that was sacred. I guess when I say sacred, it's not something that was in your face all the time. You know, I can remember seeing old movies where the parents would show you the couple going to bed in their bedroom, but they would have separate beds because I guess the whole idea is not to kind of put that in your mind.
And not that we think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to have a single bed,
Right. But I think it's just kind of like how society viewed it. It's
Yeah.
not, sex was not something that was in your face. It was something that was private. But I think in our modern day, sex is everywhere. Sex sells everything. So
Yeah.
it's almost watered down almost for couples, and it can it really can harm marriages, because I think sometimes even the way that people um, can outsource sex, for example.
Yeah.
That's something we're reading. We're reading some sort of
Yeah.
article about that, and you probably can speak on that a bit more, because you were sharing that with me in terms of how some couples can actually outsource. How sex is being outsourced in relationships.
Yeah, and that's, I think, um, for a lot of men, it can actually be very damaging when it comes to pornography. In the past, it used to be like a, okay thing or not okay thing, 30 years ago, but over the years, because also, again, getting back to that technology component, because, it's in your pocket, it's easily accessible, and honestly, that's not even talking about the kids and,
Yeah.
kids having access to those things.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I read that was, really stuck with me is that sometimes we think about monogamy in the relationship, but not only physical monogamy, but mental monogamy.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really struck by that. I'm like, wow, I think sometimes we justify, pornography, for
Yeah.
example. We justify fantasizing
Yeah.
about, when we're reading, a romance novel, but it's not, it's replacing that intimacy with our spouse. It's not about us and our spouse. It's really about, someone else, but I think just practicing that mental monogamy. And I think it's hard when we're sort of outsourcing, our outsourcing romance and outsourcing sex in that way by
Yeah.
utilizing pornography and by utilizing romance novels in
Yeah.
that way. It's really difficult to actually maintain a mental monogamy. So that's one of the things that really caught my attention. I really liked.
Yeah. So the next one that we have is number 6 is not prioritizing your relationship, and it's kind of, we stop being intentional. And because remember, if you think to a time where you were dating your fiance at the time, or boyfriend or girlfriend, and you were intentionally going on dates, and you were intentionally buying flowers, or maybe writing. I don't know. I didn't write poems, but I'm not that gifted. But some people
Cards.
do.
You did cards.
Okay,
you did
I did cards,
yes.
and you want to be kind of intentional in what you do, but this intentionality over time is kind of, people think that the marriage will take care of itself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think especially if you have young children, that can be really hard, because they do rely on you for everything. And so between play dates and school activities and sports, you
Yeah.
find yourself inundated with just kid activities all the time.
And you know what I think about is that so many couples focus on making their kids happy that they forget how to be happy themselves.
Yeah.
And like you said, they take them to sports activities and they start missing vacations, or they simply missing time together, catching up at nighttime after kids are already in bed. And that kind of thing. Our responsibility is just to raise responsible kids,
Yeah.
not to happy kids, because then kids become very, they focus a lot on themselves, and that's not something that we want to do as a married couple, right? We want to make sure they're responsible before they become happy. I think happiness really becomes a byproduct of raising responsible kids.
Well, I mean, I think that just to get back in terms of how couples can be intentional, is that when we say the word intentional, because it's not easy, it isn't easy. After doing all these activities with the kids, you're tired. So
Yeah.
you actually have to really carve out time ahead of time, schedule it, so that you can have date nights or just have one-on-one time together. Even I think some of the things that we do is that on Saturday mornings when the kids are still asleep, we would get up earlier than normal
Yeah.
just to be able to have one-on-one time together, because
And I
once
call
the
it a
kids
coffee time.
our
For me,
coffee
it's a
time.
coffee time.
Yes.
'Cause,
Even though I don't
I
drink
need
coffee.
a coffee in the morning, but yeah, be able to wake up early in the morning, because when it comes to with kids, I mean, you will find yourself going more on play dates with other kids than actually going on dates with other couples, or just
Or dates with your spouse.
with your spouse. And that's kind of, you see where the priorities are shifting a lot, and it's okay to have all those things, but I think we need to recognize that if we start doing those things more than actually why we got married, and that really that modern view of who the kid's supposed to be can really damage actually the relationship in the long run. I mean, when the kids might be out of the house and they empty nesters, but also they have empty marriages, and that's not something that
That's not our goal. That's
not
not the
our
goal.
goal.
That should not be the goal of any marriage. I think sometimes people don't usually start with the goal of being, just strangers to each other once their kids move out. I think that after years and years of not prioritizing their relationship and making sure they're connecting, they're bonded, no matter what's going on, they can end up in a place where they didn't want to be in the first place, but because so many years have gone by where they weren't caring and nurturing and maintaining a relationship, that's what ends up happening.
Exactly. And the very last one that we want to talk to you guys about is the financial struggles. And we know that a lot of people go through financial struggles, unless you were born with silver spoon, is that the same?
In your mouth, yes.
In your mouth. I wasn't born here, so please bear with me and my accent. But financial struggles is, it's, back in the days, it was very hard to be able to get a loan. It was tough, like even 40, 50 years ago. Now today, education is so expensive. Cars are pretty expensive, and people want to drive cars early, at 18, 19, as soon as you get your driver's license. 16, you want to get this nice new shiny car. So ability to be able to get that loan, it doesn't really that difficult anymore. And what happens is, you're kind of carrying this debt along the ways, when you're single and then when you get married, and then kids come, or you're trying to plan things for kids, but you still have to pay your loan, and that financial struggles can really be a big thing for a lot of marriages too. That is being unnoticed, in modern world, and the debt becomes a norm, and that's a kind of a bad norm.
Yeah, I think that's part of the whole process of having a good foundation for couples, is that understanding where they're at financially even before getting married, and understanding what their views of money is actually. I think that when people have different views of money, if somebody tends to be an impulse buyer and the other person tends to be a saver, that could be.
I did not know that. Apparently, I am very impulsive when it comes to buying, and she's the opposite. She's a saving, or she's a saver, but once you recognize that you have those things in you, and most of the people, that's what they have in them, so the key is just to recognize.
Yes, recognize and come up with a plan as a couple to work together, because I think if you're not on the same page when it comes to your financial situation as a couple, it can really be detrimental to your relationship.
Yeah,
for sure.
And be able to plan things together, plan vacation time, or even personal financial goals, something that you want to acquire or invest into, or get that piece of technology, or that car, or be able to buy this house, or be able to go on this specific vacation. If couples are on the same page, which we try to do, the financial piece in marriage can be really detrimental if the both couples are not on the same page.
Yes. So these are 7 reasons why we believe that modern marriages are not working. So hopefully this was helpful for you, and hopefully there's something in there that you've heard that you can implement in your own relationship that is helpful.
And we would encourage you to sit down with your, with your spouse and to talk about some of the things that maybe you might have heard from this conversation with us, from the show. To, maybe it's something in your marriage that needs some adjustment. You may need to kind of maybe go on the dates more often, or maybe you want to talk about the finances. You want to talk about being intentional about certain things, and simply try to maintain your marriage, just like you try to maintain your car. You try to change your oil, rotate tires, because those things will not happen by itself. So marriage needs to be seen. There has to be a maintenance component in marriage, and be able to see those things.
Agreed.
In order to make sure that you are still happy when you have kids, and when the kids become older and maybe leave your house, and you're now empty nester.
Yeah.
So with that, we will leave you with some of these 7 topics, and hopefully they will benefit your relationship just as much as it benefit ours.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.
We'll see you next time on Happy Couples.